Welcome to Cigar City Radio, episode number 29. I'm your host, Randy Ojeda, and making the magic happen, a man who doesn't know whether to drink coffee or beer, Mr. Jason Solanes.
Well, sometimes I combine them, and you know what happens then?
Indigestion.
Which is solved by?
Another beer.
By?
Oh, okay. All right.
Learned that one from Steve-O.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Let's move on.
All right.
For more episodes, head to cigarcityradio.com or subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast app is. Just search for Cigar City Radio. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, and on all those networks, our username is Cigar City Radio.
Cigar City Management and Cigar City Radio are proud to support autism awareness by participating in the 2017 Autism Speaks Walk, Tampa Bay. As part of the Dreams for David team, we are working to raise funds to support research and medical discovery and to help fund local services through the mission of Autism Speaks. Together, we can accomplish amazing things for people living with autism. You can donate to support the Dreams for David team or by joining us for the Autism Speaks Walk Tampa Bay on April 22nd at Raymond James Stadium. For more info, head to cigarcitymanagement.com/autism.
This episode of Cigar City Radio was recorded at the Blind Tiger in Ybor City. The Blind Tiger is a 1920s speakeasy-style coffee shop serving coffee, tea, vegan pastries, and more. With locations in Ybor City and Seminole Heights, you can check them out at blindtigercafe.com.
Our guest on this episode is Buddy Nielsen, frontman for the post-hardcore band Senses Fail. We caught up with him a while back during their Quince Años tour, which is celebrating the 15th anniversary of the band's seminal album, Still Searching. They also have a new acoustic EP out now called In Your Absence, so be sure to check that out. For tour dates, merch, and more, head to sensesfail15.com. So here it is, episode 29. You're on the Quince Años tour, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's been 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
Not since the start of the band, though, since Still Searching came out? Or?
No, since the start of the band.
Oh, since the start of the band. Wow.
Yeah.
15 years.
I know, it's crazy.
It is crazy. We were just talking about that. We're like, it makes us feel old that it's been 15 years. But
Yeah.
how does it make you feel?
Well, I don't know. It doesn't make you feel that old. I don't feel that old. I generally feel probably in better shape than I was 15 years ago. So
Yeah. I mean, that's usually the goal, right?
Yeah.
To progress and grow.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess it's kind of strange just to be doing something for so long. I mean, it's the only thing I've ever really done. So I've done other things. They've just been much more short-lived.
Yeah. How old were you when you started the band? Like
18.
18.
Yeah.
So it really is literally everything you've ever done is this band. That's amazing though.
Yeah.
That you can have a career doing, what you love to do for so long.
I know.
With no interruptions.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been times that we definitely took some breaks. I mean, we never really had an official hiatus, but we'd take years off here or there. And last year was we did one tour last year. So, I mean, that kind of count that as a year off.
Yeah.
Interesting to see the ebb and flow of a band because it's not always popular. It's you definitely go up and down. Some bands are able to keep a large momentum, but a lot of them even they'll ebb and flow between each record.
Yeah. And you guys were a big part of the post-hardcore sort of emo revival that happened in early 2000s, right?
Mm.
So
I guess so, yeah. You could lump us in with all that. We definitely were riding that wave.
Yeah, I mean that was like what the MySpace era, you know, like bands were like really getting big through that, and then that was kind of the peak of like Warped Tour and stuff too.
Absolutely, yeah, we were on a bunch of those, and
Warped Tour, Taste of Chaos, and all that.
We did the first and third Taste of Chaos.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
because I feel like you guys have just been touring nonstop, like this, just over the years.
Yeah, I mean we'll at least do one tour a year. For the most part. This year, we'll probably do 2. And next year, we'll probably do like 3 or 4. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Because it seems like things are building for you guys now. Because I know you just released the acoustic EP.
Yeah.
Was it In Your Absence?
Yeah.
Which is cool. Had a couple new songs. And I know you've been teasing a new record that's coming out later in the year.
It'll probably come out next year.
Next year. Okay. Yeah. So see, that's the train is a rolling, I guess.
Yeah. We're gonna do another tour in the fall here. We'll record the record in the summer. Record will come out early next year. Do another tour. Hopefully do something like Warped Tour next summer. Yeah, it's going.
That's awesome to feel that momentum of things coming, new album, the whole cycle,
So,
yeah.
So you talked a little bit about the ebb and flow and the ups and downs of a band over 15 years. What sorts of things cause that ebb and flow for you guys? You said it's between records. So are there events that happen that are causing ebb and flow, or is it just like a natural progression?
I think naturally everybody people grow in and out of bands, and people that when they listen to your band when they're 16, they might not listen to your band when they're 26 or
right
30. So you have that, and then we changed our style of music a little bit over the last couple years. Our last 2 records are pretty heavy, so that changes, whether people are going to listen to the new stuff and come out when you do a tour focusing on newer stuff. And the music industry changed a lot in 2008 after the housing market crash, mixed with streaming and people not buying physical CDs anymore changes a lot of income for bands. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars.
Depending on
that
the
bands,
band,
that bands no longer make.
So you mean like literal ebb and flow caused from external sources,
not
everything. Just internal?
Yeah, everything. So then or people have seen you 4 times, so this time they're not going to come see you play. Not every tour you go on is going to be the best tour.
Yeah.
So you have to be okay with
grinding.
Pushing. Yeah, exactly. You got to be okay with that. And that's what I mean. Some tours are going to be amazing. Some tours are going to be. Sometimes they're going to play, and it's going to be Monday night, and the show's just not going to do as good as it could, and that's just part of the ebb and flow of being in a band. And then some tours you do, like this one is just probably doing better than this. Probably is the most successful tour we've done in 10 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the last time we headlined 2 years ago is also we did really well, but this one's doing a little bit better.
And do you think it's just the 15th anniversary thing, or?
But I think we've gotten a little bit more relevant over the last 2 years. I think people liked our last record. I think people are sort of. We're one of the only bands taking a political stance currently, other than just playing up the softball stuff that most bands are oh, no one's really going to get mad if we support women. We take a pretty hard line without being an anti-flag or anything like that.
Right.
So I think people were opposed to it maybe 2 years ago. They were kind of why do we need this? What's going on? But now I think currently people are oh, okay, this is maybe something that is cool, or I appreciate, or I actually really do like that they do this. So I think there's some relevancy in that. I think we put out an EP that has more of an older sound, so I think that also resonated with people. And
like going back to the roots.
yeah, I think that also resonated with people. And, just this last 2 years has been sort of a revival of that sort of nostalgia, nostalgia, and then again, people re-interested in that style of music.
Yeah. And I mean, the people I think that were listening to the band, when you were 18, and people were similar ages now are at a point where they're like, yeah, we just want to hear some of that music again. You know?
Yeah, and then younger kids are like, oh, what is this stuff?
Yeah,
what is this? I think it's similar, like Bad Religion. When I started listening to Bad Religion, it was like 1998. I mean, the band had been a band for 15 years.
Yeah.
They were like,
Yeah. Still
and I discovered them, and they were like having this kind of like, I don't know if it might have been their most successful point, but yeah, it's possible to have a long career and like refine success if you sort of make the right decisions and put out good tours, put on good shows, make good music, and are willing to sort of fight through some of the down
times.
The downtimes, where people like in 2009 to now, or 2 years ago, it was sort of like people progressed on to kind of the music scene kind of progressed onto a little bit different style of music, and it was way heavier and more further away from what Senses Fail was doing, and now some of the bigger bands are a little bit more close to what Senses Fail is doing, so I feel like there's a little bit more like, oh, okay, it's kind of swung back around to being not so much like metalcore and a little bit more into like pop punk, which is much closer to what Senses Fail is.
Now, but you did mention that you have gotten heavier in the last few years, and you also mentioned that you've gotten more political in the last few years. Is that something that, did those two go together?
I don't think so. I mean, the music's never really political.
Right. It's just the stances that you're taking outside.
Yeah, what we do on social media that's where we talk about politics.
Yeah, I see now you're wearing a "Refuse the Shape of Trump to Come" shirt.
Yeah,
so
this was wishful thinking. It didn't work out.
No.
Well, now it's classic.
Yeah,
but it will. It will work out eventually when everybody who voted for him in Florida no longer has health care, and eventually Miami is underwater.
Well, that's going to happen either way.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing they can do about that.
Florida's sinking where there's nothing we can do about it.
And we don't have fish in the Gulf because we're dumping shit into it.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to lose. There's no winning in this. Nobody wins.
Yeah. Well, that's the worst part about it is like we're sort of damned if we do and definitely damned if we don't,
Yeah. I mean, so. It's really interesting to see people voting against their self-interests.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting.
Well, but I think that's kind of what happens with politics is like, you get somebody that's really good at,
that's why I don't
saying the right things.
Well,
he's riled up.
He's convinced people that them voting for him was self-interest by saying we're going to lower your taxes, we're going to give you a healthcare system that's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah,
we're going to export all these people that are taking your jobs. Don't you guys want more jobs? Don't you want more jobs? Don't you want more jobs? Don't you want more jobs?
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I know it's populism. I know how people get tricked.
Yeah.
But it's sad to see that, like, this healthcare bill doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Because fortunately enough, I fall in the position between my wife and I where we don't get any subsidies from Obamacare, and we wouldn't really get any from this new thing. So it's the people that are most affected are people that are not making money, which a lot of poor white people voted for him, and I mean, if anybody doesn't care about poor white people, it's Republicans. I mean, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
The poor white people tend to vote Republican, and
well, I think for Republicans, the poor people are all lumped together. So
you're right. Yeah. All poor people are fucked.
Yeah,
but generally, poor white people tend to vote Republican,
and then get fucked.
Yeah, and they end up getting fucked, which is really like very interesting thing. So we'll see what happens. I mean,
so how do you combat that? Like, with your social media and.
I just raise awareness. I mean, I'm pretty. I have to pick and choose what I get involved in. I mean, we do small things like, we raffle off drum heads every night and they go to charity. Like, it's hard to really do a lot as a band, honestly.
Yeah,
we can't raise enough money to make any substantial difference.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sure.
So we just do little things while we can, but then a lot of it is just kind of like talking about it brings awareness to people being more political. I think that's what you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you have an opportunity, as a popular band, to use that platform to just raise awareness about issues. So, I hear from a lot of people that, when bands start to get political and start to bring those things up, where they're like, "Oh, you should just stick to your music and shut up about the politics."
Yeah, I
and
mean,
stuff,
generally it's usually a small amount of people.
Yeah.
They're just very vocal. Probably not well educated in the history of music and
yeah,
what music is and how it is intertwined with politics and art.
yeah.
I mean, I usually just write it off as people that are generally the kind of people that would go to McDonald's and write a Yelp review about
For
McDonald's.
yeah,
They're like, okay.
Yeah. Like, did
Don't
not
be-
have
don't be
enough
an asshole.
ketchup packets and
Like, you came to McDonald's. You came to McDonald's.
1 star.
You knew what was going to happen.
Don't fucking complain.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Big Mac wasn't big enough.
yeah.
False advertising.
Yeah. So you're like, okay. So you're upset about following a band that's going to talk about their personal beliefs.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what bands have done since the dawn of bands, Yeah,
Yeah, but they still come to the shows. They still buy merch. They just because generally conservatives are pretty bad at boycotting. They're not really willing to put their like comforts out to I'm not going to use Uber anymore.
Yeah.
Fuck Uber. Fuck that dude because he keeps being a dick.
Yeah. Continually.
So I'm not going to use Uber anymore. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of conservatives will be like, well, I mean, like it. I like Census Fail. I just don't like when he talks about politics. So hopefully, when we go to the show, he doesn't talk about politics. And if he goes to the show and talks about politics, well, I'm not going to buy a shirt. I mean, they go and they're like, "Wow, I really like that shirt." Nobody's like jumping off the Census Fail bandwagon. They might turn us off on social media, be like, "I know we see it differently." Like some guy's mad because I blocked him. I'm like, I don't need to hear your opinion. I don't give a shit. Like, he's like, I'm really hurt. I'm like, dude, if you're upset that I blocked you on social media, you really need to like look at your life in a different perspective, because I don't want to hear you telling me about anything. That social media is not for me to like gain information from followers.
Yeah.
It's solely for me to put stuff out into the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Not gaining insight.
You're
about-
a content creator. You don't make music so you
Yeah.
can listen to your fans.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that's just not like
Yeah.
how
But
it
people,
works.
But people take that stuff personally, man. They
Yeah,
they
I mean,
take,
Yeah, no, I mean, well, the problem is like when you start re-engaging with people is when you really like run into issues. Like you really have to just post whatever it is and not respond.
Yeah.
You can't respond. I mean,
Never look at the comments.
it sounds like I don't believe that bands are on a pedestal, but I do believe that they're on a pedestal in social media. Like you can't be available on social media.
Yeah, and people shouldn't expect you to be.
No. I mean, you
Yeah.
just shouldn't. You should
Yeah.
never respond unless it's like a question about like what time is the show or
Yeah.
like where do I get tickets. But if there's any sort of other questions that revolve around like politics or civil rights or even your music, like you just can't respond.
Don't make it personal.
Well, not even. You just don't even respond. Yeah, you don't even treat it as like this is like a real place to even have a conversation about anything because it's not. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't talk about shit on the internet. It's not going to do anything.
Right.
It's solely for the purpose of information. And once you start to break it down into communication, I think it loses its whole usefulness. People use the internet to communicate. I don't think it's as useful for communication as it is for just information.
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I think it's like I think it's a communication tool by sharing information. But when it comes like people writing in text form to each other over the internet is a very poor form of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a
doesn't-
lot of room for miscommunication.
I mean, there's just a lot of garbage. I mean, people don't have to ever stand behind their words.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that's the thing is, there's no accountability really on the internet, especially on Twitter, where people can just make a new handle every 5 minutes, and it's like...
I've noticed that when I don't respond to anybody's negative stuff, it goes away completely.
Yeah.
But if you respond to negative stuff over the course of like a month or 2 months, you attract more people that are interested in trolling and just like, you just attract more people. So if you never respond to any of it, people just it's like
There's no reason to troll someone that's not going to be mad about it.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if you responded to everything with just an eggplant, do you think people would troll that and try?
Yeah,
to,
well,
no,
I
mean,
used to respond with your mom. Right. But I'd misspell it, you are mom.
Right.
And that really gets everybody going because they freak out because they're like, what does that mean? And they're like, you spelled your mom like wrong, you used the wrong.
Yeah, but you're trolling them so perfectly.
They just freak out. They just would freak out. They're just like, I can't handle it.
They can't handle the grammar, the incorrect grammar.
But yeah, generally I really don't respond anymore.
Yeah, you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, we're pretty much out of time here, but
I do have one.
Oh, Jason's got one more.
I have one fan question, and you don't have to answer it because I couldn't find an answer anywhere on the internet. Why did you retire 187? Someone demanded that I ask you that question.
I don't know, because it's kind of a boring song, and when we play it live, people that like 187 are a vocal minority. They're very loud. They want to hear it, and then when we play it, it goes over very like, kind of like not. We play songs that people most want to hear.
Yeah.
So we try to play songs that like get everybody in the crowd excited, because if only half the crowd's excited, it's not really that fun to play.
Fair enough.
The
person vehemently was like, "You need to ask this question."
Yeah,
So they're one of the vocal minority.
Yeah.
yeah.
because we'll play it like randomly, and people will be like kind of stoked. Like that person will be really stoked, but then you'll have a bunch of people like, "What song is this?
Yeah.
Like, what is this song?"
Well, if you play it tonight, you'll have at
Yeah.
least one person stoked.
One person would be very happy, but that's about it.